Welcome to Typebook. We are Chris and Rose, INTJ and INFJ, and we are cataloging a variety of people based on their Jungian psychological types and their MBTI four-letter abbreviations. Today we are taking a look at Frances McDormand at the request of a viewer.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
The actress that played Ayesha, the youngest member of the community. When we first showed the film in Telluride at the Telluride Film Festival, one of the questions from the audiences after the film was to the group, how did this experience affect your life? If it did, how? And Sarah said something, Claire said something, and then Kate, she raised her hand, and we're like, you don't have to raise your hand, Kate. And she said, okay, well, when we started this process, I felt that I should just do as I was told, and then I realized there was more expected from me, and now I expect more.
Yes! All right, stop there. Such an ESTJ woman response. She just witnessed some woman coming to some self-revelation, and she's going to celebrate it. Because yes, and I think this is the thing with these types of ESTJ women. They're very inspirational to other women.
Yes,
because
they're strong.
They're strong. They've got that TE that just dishes it out. And then of course the FI, right? All about like self-empowerment and all these other good things, Because they're sensors, many women trust them. They listen to them for guidance. They find them inspirational.
They're kind of like your woman's woman. You get like a man's man, and I suppose it's like an ENTJ or like some other TE type.
ESTJ. I would probably say that.
ESTJ.
Yeah, I'd probably say it's the male counterpart as well.
Yeah, they fill a gap, don't they? They're like a man, but they're a woman. They're almost like fatherly, I suppose. Does that make sense? Two women. They're fatherly in a way that is like...
Or are they just motherly? Are they just like that take charge kind of mother? I sort of see him as filling both roles, to be honest, because I do see a lot of ESTJ women, they kind of come out of the box to me as very warm individuals.
Mm-hmm.
They're very emotionally expressive.
Yes, it's confusing.
Well, it is, because they're very they'll be the ones that put their hand on your arm. How are you today? And they tend to use names a lot. They'll use your first name when they talk to you.
They're like the ENFP in this way.
Yeah.
ENFP is very soul reaching.
Exactly. I find it kind of ironic that they get this term Karen all the time out there, when in real life, the reality is most of the ESTJ women that I have known are not considered Karens at all by the majority of people. In fact, it's the opposite. They're very admired and well respected in their communities for the work that they do. They are very hands-on type individuals. They're not afraid to jump in and serve others, become involved in committees, groups. I don't know, whatever it is. They seem to be...
I think they're a bit too composed to be a Karen, aren't they?
Well, no, I'm not saying that they can't. I mean, I sort of see
maybe
where
they could be then. What is a Karen? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I can see it in younger years. I mean, I knew one in college. I don't know if I said this, but ironically, her name was Karen. And she was an ESTJ. And yeah, she was the definition of a Karen.
Is it,
like this,
is it,
make this right, this isn't right. But I'll be honest.
It's the sticklerism, is it?
Well, she came from a very privileged background. She was very wealthy. And it was one of those things like, I expect everything to be my way or the highway, and you better make this right. And she looked down her nose at other people. But I mean, I think a good ESTJ woman isn't going to be like that. And the ones that I've known, they don't treat people this way. Now, they are sticklers. but it comes from a different place, I think. So I think the
Mm,
Karen is probably more like I just described. But honestly, most of the ones I've known in my life, they're not like this. They're very eager to help others out. They open up their homes to other people. Um, I have a sister who's one. She's very involved in her community. She's a beautiful woman. She's the first person to bring a meal to someone if they're going through hard times.
they are sort of like the female hero. It is like very special, I think, because as I was saying earlier, the way they conduct themselves is probably more like a man in terms of the practicality and the, all that kind of stuff. But they could only be. What's really special, really, is the fact that they are women and they're doing it. Because, you couldn't get anyone out, no one else could. That practical, straight thinking, solid, stable, grounded kind of woman. The world kind of needs that. Because they need those, like, female sensibilities to perform that role. It's very unique, I think.
Yes.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Boom.
Fabulous. I mean, how did that? I mean, were there other moments like that where, as a producer, that you thought, this is really working. This is, this is radical. This is really working in ways that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, I mean, there was so many. We were supposed to go into filming before the pandemic,
Right.
and so the pandemic, that 2 years of the pandemic, really slowed things down in a way that, that were exponentially important to the gestation of the project. It's not that it wouldn't have been something extraordinary, because it was already fully written and realized and for Sarah, but there was a process of casting, there was a process of finding a crew, there was a process of kind of the artistic development, the aesthetic development of the project, I think, that really was served by the time that we had. But I would say one of the things is the way that Sarah was able to, she had a lot of time with actors on Zoom. She had a lot of time with us. We rehearsed together as a company. We had a reading as a company.
All of you on Zoom?
On Zoom.
Yeah. Okay.
All on Zoom. And there was this sense that we weren't meeting in a room. And then when we all got together in Toronto, we were still under serious lockdown, serious, all the British actors had to quarantine for 3 weeks. I drove up there and quarantined for 2 weeks. So there were all these barriers to get to each other. When we finally got to each other in that hayloft.
In Toronto?
Still masked,
Yeah.
and the hayloft was on a soundstage. We were all so desperate for community. And we were just vibrating. We were vibrating with the excitement of being in the same room. And then when we weren't allowed to take the mask off until the cameras rolled. And then it was like, hi! Because we were like trying to get across the mask. We're trying to get across the mask all during rehearsal. And then it's like, here I am. And then you saw each other. And it was like, oh my, it was glorious.
All right, let's stop
It was
there.
glorious.
They are all about community.
Yes.
And there's something about her language that communicates to people that she's very capable. Something about her presence that communicates that she's very capable. I know we've talked about this before, probably in some other video, but they dress in a way that's just so TE. Practicality first. Is this clothing comfortable? I mean, I think that's just the way it is, I'm not saying that they can't dress up and be feminine and whatever else, but, they definitely choose clothing for comfort. I mean, I don't know how many times I've sat with my sister when our other sister tries to give us bags of clothing that she's trying to off on us. And, she pulls things out of the bag, one by one. Nope, won't fit me. Nope, this isn't my style. Nope, this is too frilly. Nope, this is that. This is that. Where I'm sitting there deciding, right? I look at each piece of clothing and think, and I have to think about each one for like 5 minutes. And then she's like, here, this one will fit you. Nope, I can't wear this. And I mean, it's just hilarious, And she's all about what's comfortable, what's practical. I have to be going around the kitchen today, or I have to be doing this today, and I can't be wearing that. And you can just see the sensibility in it. I think it's the TE that just gives that trust, like this is a capable woman. And on the man side of things, the ESTJ male, it's the same kind of idea,
Yeah.
He's just a capable man. I mean, we've seen some directors that have this type. It's just something about them, like they're capable people.
Just very safe, aren't they?
I just love how she's celebrating, taking the masks off, and here we are again.
Yeah, they're almost like practical in their emotionality as well.
Yes.
They're like, yes, guys,
well,
I'm here.
And that's a great point, because isn't that what says capable to someone? They're quick on their feet thinkers. They don't get carried away by their emotions. They're steady and dependable.
Yes, and I think it's the female brain, isn't it? Not only am I practical and, I can get stuff done, but I'm practical and emotionally supportive as well. It's like they're everything.
Yeah, they're funny in their emotional support, though, because my sister said she'll support anyone, but she doesn't want to sit there for an hour listening to you rehash your problem over and over again. She just wants you to tell it to her, and she'll check in on you and make sure you're doing okay, and she'll encourage you, but she doesn't want you to sit there and wallow in it over and over and over again. They want you to grow from it. They
Help
want
you
you
help
to.
Yourself.
Exactly. Yes. Help you help yourself. Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
But first,
don't forget to like and subscribe.
Help us.
That's what you're going to say.
Help us by subscribing and liking, so we can get the word out.
She holds up a card saying, say it. Quite funny, really. So do the practical thing and emotionally support us. Help us help ourselves by liking and subscribing. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
And so I think that, I don't want to talk about why I think it was brilliant for Sarah to cast me as Scarface Jans, if I can, for a moment.
Please do.
First of all, who doesn't want to play Scarface Jans? I've always wanted to have a scar. But so you don't need, Frances McDormand to play Scarface Jans necessarily. But what it does is that you think, wait a minute, maybe she's coming back. Or you think about those women who aren't going. You think about that large group of women who voted not to leave and she has Scarface and her family hardly speak. We don't have dialogue. It's all kind of this unspoken.
Okay, stop.
Kind of.
So before we end, I want to speak about how ESTJ females speak very passionately and are very warm. Because you can be tricked into thinking they might be a bit more like an ENFJ. And it was between those two types when we typed her. Because they do interact with the audience. They do speak very passionately too. They can be quite emotive, which is strange for an FI, well, it's stranger for an FI type. So the original interview we looked at, we were torn, weren't we, between ENFJ and ESTJ.
Yes.
And we had to look at more interviews to see more variations of her behaviour before we could decide whether she was TE or FE. Because these things, TE does the same thing as FE in some ways. It's just a different...
Yes, because certain ENFJ females can be very, I don't want to say domineering, but they have a very strong presence, let's say.
Yes, assertive.
Assertive, yes.
Yes. What you're looking for in this instance is, yes, typically FE is going to be a certain way, typically TE dominance is going to be a certain way, but they're not always exactly that. Sometimes a TE can look a bit more like an FE, or an FE can look more like a TE. There are instances in behavioural manifestation where that can be the case. So you need to look at more stuff to see the context of it, really. And that's what we did, because this is a much more different interview than the original we saw.
The ENFJ is looking to bond with the audience.
ENFJ is looking to, I feel like, relate and feel the audience in that like emotional way. They want the audience to be reactive, and they want to feed off it almost.
Right, because it gives them something to work with, right.
But I guess it's sort of like where the fire comes from, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So the ENFJ wants the fire to come from the audience so that they can feed off of it and be warm off it, in a way. I think with FI, the fire comes from inside.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
like a flamethrower, like, warm up, guys.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And this is what you're seeing here. She wants to inspire them and be like, no, we can do it. We can, whatever. This is my belief. I know it to be true. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. To support our project, please comment, like, and subscribe. We want to encourage a dialogue in the comments, so substantiated disagreement is welcome. Check out the playlist for this type and our recommended video below. If there's someone you want us to type, please leave a comment for us. Or you can look into our fast track system to find out how you can get your favorite people typed sooner.